Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm Christine Marie,
And I'm Charley Zhang.
and this is our Soulful Dialogue series, where two soul sisters come together each month to share what's alive in our hearts and explore the beautiful messiness of being human.
Through intimate, unscripted conversations, we dive into questions both big and small around self-discovery, spiritual growth, and awakening the medicine that lives within each of us to create a more conscious and compassionate world.
We're here to bridge ancient wisdom with raw vulnerability, the sacred with the everyday. So settle in, open your heart, and welcome to the journey.
Okay, so we're gonna just dive right in. Are you ready for that?
Got my bathing suit on.
Me too, our internal bathing suits.
Yes. My floaties too, maybe.
Yeah, so I want you to just take a moment and feel into what wants to come up right away on its own. When you hear me ask you the question, what is the universe asking you right now to receive?
Well, right now I have an image of one of my guides flying in front of me. It's like this, it's like this beautiful, I think actually it's a blue heron. Wow, okay. Yeah. And I'm just tuning into the energy, and what it feels like is like this sense of freedom. And as I feel into what freedom is meaning to me in my heart right now, it feels like this ability to receive freedom from the stories that my mind creates in order to try to protect me from feeling something uncomfortable. There's been this process that I've been in. I mean, literally, we were just talking about this last week, since we've known each other. Like, my whole world shifted 3 weeks before our first time we had kava together. And then there's been so many turn of events of just a lot showing up for me in my personal life, in my family life, in my healing life, as Charley and I have been, friends. And one thing that I just realized isn't helping my situation is still this underlying feeling of being judged for being too sensitive or too much in my watery grieving nature.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did for myself this last weekend was Sunday I canceled all my plans and I painted and I got into some creative self-expression, and then I laid under my maple tree in my backyard and I just let her spirit hold me while I just sobbed and sobbed. And while I was sitting there with the grandmother tree, I was just being reminded. It felt like this message of one, you never have to apologize for the depth at which your grief lives, because that is how deep your love is, and that's a holy thing. That I was born with a specific blueprint, a specific archetype. I'm literally 60% water in my birth chart, and I know part of my journey in this lifetime that I signed up for was to go through some really hard shit. And part of moving through that hard stuff is allowing myself to feel the emotions of all of it to its deepest core. And I've opened myself up these last couple of years to really feel and see the truth of what's been living inside of me. And that prayer has been answered, but it just feels like it's just has come all at once, and like I can't turn away from it now. And it's, it's a lot. It's a lot for me to hold. And it's also, there's this feeling that then coming back to my original thing of like me, the fear that I was running in my mind of like with you specifically, Charley, was, okay, is she just going to keep thinking I'm like a hot mess that like, is just always crying like every time we hang out? And like, I don't, and I know like your soul essence understands like there's a whole larger picture, but like there's still like the part of me that like touches that abandonment wound. And so I had to like kind of receive the message from the tree and like myself of like, yo, like this is just like what you came for, and this is like part of your process, and like those that love you will just embrace you fully in that. And so now what I'm needing to do is like embrace myself fully in this. And so I guess what I'm here to receive right now is embracing myself fully, and yeah, being really mindful of like those stories that my mind likes to create because of programming and like, fear.
So my question then is, when you think about receiving that, what does that look like for you? Or what comes up, whether it's an image or an action or even feeling? Because it sounds like when I connect this word back to freedom, it is that freedom to be exactly as you are in any moment, whether you're deep in the grief, deep in the mess, or whether you're in other parts of the continuum, bright in your joy, or, sacred in your mission and purpose. It just, like, to me, it feels like this is about complete freedom to be exactly as you are in any moment. And so I'm just curious about, when you think about how you might want to receive that, anything that comes up.
Yeah, actually, the phrase "love is the medicine" like is really present right now. And I received this energy, this phrase, this vibration in my first ayahuasca ceremony, actually like over 5 years ago. And it's always stuck with me of like any of those parts that I feel afraid of within myself, or, the things that I want most, or the things that I'm scared of, like embrace it with love. And I think for me, I'm still discovering what love really is and what it really means, because for so long it had a distorted lens on it based on my upbringing.
Yeah.
And so like the more and more I'm peeling away my true essence, the more and more I'm understanding what love really is and what it means and what it feels. And then therefore the more I can give that unconditional, authentic love to myself.
Yeah.
It's still a work in progress.
I think it's something that we're here to learn. I think this is so much of what the human journey is about, is to learn how to love. So then I just have a next question that's just coming in really quickly for me. But I'm curious, like, what comes up when you hear me ask the question, what's something that you love easily right now? What is easy to love currently? First thing that comes up.
Yeah, being a student of life. And that used to be actually really fucking hard, which is like, I'm surprised that that's what came through. And then I'm also like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah, love that.
Being a student of life, which is including all of this stuff, like, because all of this, I feel like I am a student of continuously learning and growing, and yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I could see the light almost come into your eyes as that came right in for you. And so, what do you love about learning? What do you love about being a student?
I think like the novelty is really fun. Like right now, I'm in a couple of different creative programs and stuff like that. And every time I feel like I get to a new level, I realize, wow, there's like 20,000 more levels to like explore and to experience. And And so one, I think what it's really great is that I recognize actually like my resilience, my determination, my ability to grow and evolve, and like just also the kind of like the mystery of what can show up
Mm.
when you don't even like when you're not expecting it. Like for example, I was in band practice last night and I have been practicing the song for a couple weeks now, but I wasn't really sure how I felt with it yet. And as I was singing it, I was like taken away by my own voice. And that again was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Wow, how beautiful. Like, and then I get to receive that, like, that magic within me, which is what I'm doing music for at this moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think all those pieces really play a big part.
Yeah, it's like the excitement of discovery and being surprised about what you're discovering, and that what you're discovering is actually quite delightful and interesting and joyful. What if the feeling of loving learning, that particular quality of love, is how you're actually learning to love yourself?
Mm.
And so this love that you're experiencing or that you're cultivating for yourself is really about, ooh, what more is there to Christine Marie? What else can I know about her? What else can I discover about her? What else about her will surprise me?
Yeah.
It kind of feels
Yeah.
like that a little bit.
Well, and it feels like the antidote to all those stories about myself that I create. It's like about the not good enough, the unworthiness. And it's like, wait a second, I have the chills. I'm here and seeing all of my glory and all of my worthiness in these spaces where I just enter into great mystery and creativity
Totally.
and I think that does feel like, at least in this moment, the antidote to
Mm-mm.
those other stories that are no longer allowed to take the steering wheel of my life anymore.
And those stories are also very fixed too.
Hmm.
And and there's something here about these news stories that are always constantly up for revision and updating and change and transformation, and where yeah, the old stories, they don't change, they don't want to change, but you're engaging in something that is all about changing the story and updating the story and being dynamic and constantly evolving and in motion. And so it sounds like it's really important to tap into that capacity to be influenced and to continue to shape and reshape yourself around life circumstances, whatever life throws at you.
Yeah, and I think it brings empowerment to me because essentially I get to choose then what story I will
Mm-hmm.
act from, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
will I continue to believe the old programming stories that have retired and run their course and they're just by now kind of getting a little boring? Or am I going to believe these new stories about myself that are actually way more aligned to my life force energy and in a very generative way, And like because now I'm consciously aware of these stories, like I have the ability to choose now. Whereas years ago, and I'm sure there's still stories that are running behind my subconscious I'm not aware of, but at least the stories I'm dealing with now, like years ago, I don't even think I knew that they were there. And if I
Mhm.
don't know if they're running the show, well, how can I change them or how can I choose differently?
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So then, what is this moment asking you to trust that you haven't trusted before?
I think those new stories,
Yeah.
because they're so, I would say, contradicting to the other ones,
Mm.
And like almost then if I trust these stories, there's this fear of like, then what? And
Mm.
almost like not even then what will bad will happen, but like what more will expand and like,
Mm.
almost fearing like success more.
Yeah.
And I've dabbled with that a little bit of like, what am I so afraid of? And I think I think when it comes to like wanting to be my whole authentic self, the fear really isn't about like how I will see myself, but it's still about how others will perceive me. You know, but either way, there's then this like quote of like, well, they're gonna judge you anyway, so you might as well,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
expand. But I'm still with that tango a bit.
Yeah. So then what's a new story that you want to work with around that? How would you synthesize that into a
Yeah.
new
I
belief?
think it's like being my whole authentic self. Like if I'm my whole authentic self, then hmm, I get the feeling is like then I can have peace for some reason is what comes up. I can have peace or I'm worthy. I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. Can you help me out here?
Yeah.
I'm getting in my mind too much about it.
Yeah. What about something like you can be your full authentic self
Mm.
and be loved for it?
Mm.
Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Or like my being in my full authentic self, like, yeah, I guess can be loved or won't push people away or like will push the right people away,
Right,
you
because it
know?
does feel
Yeah.
the opposite of that old story of if I'm too much, then I will be abandoned.
Yeah.
And so there's something about if I am my whole self, I can still be loved in that.
Yeah. And then I'm going to take another deep or layer deeper and say, if I'm my full authentic self and
Mm.
I am abandoned, I've got me.
Mm.
Everything's going to be okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Still have that foundational love there.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful. So learning to trust that story more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it makes me curious about what, like, how do you do that then?
How do you do what?
How do you trust that story more? How do you start to build
So,
trust in that story?
one practice that I often do is it's all noticing, right? Because our awareness is really key. So when something comes up about, okay, I'm walking on stage and I'm performing a song,
Mm.
the tendency is to say, oh, I'm going to be terrible. I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes. People are going to hate my voice, like all these stories. Now my practice is going in and telling myself a different story of like, your voice is beautiful, you know the song, like, you've got this, like just being my own cheerleader.
Yeah.
And then it's also then recognizing the moment after, like, I'm in the practice, I sing the song, it's amazing. The next day, going back and acknowledging myself for changing that story and building a new foundation of trust
Mm.
with something new.
Hmm.
And over time, I think that is how we begin to like build that trust with ourselves and then something new that we are doing.
Yeah. So that reflective exercise of, I actually did this.
Hmm. How did it go? Did it work? What did you feel?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And what I also hear in that is actually letting yourself do the thing despite the possibility of rejection or criticism.
Hmm.
And so it goes to your point about not living from the old story anymore and not letting the old story stop you from doing something that's important to you and still moving forward anyway, even if the voices of doubt are still there.
Yeah. And to honestly, that old story is what makes me not remember my breathing techniques, my key, like the key of my voice, like those old stories of I'm not good enough, or you're going to fail at this, or everyone's going to hate your voice, whatever, that actually puts me in a state of being like not great, not to my full potential. But when I flip this script and I tell myself something different, I show up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy energy that can come to play.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit like energetic jujitsu too.
It is.
Like, actually, I'm going to step outside of this state of contraction and put myself in a state of expansion instead, and work with that energy rather than working with the negative energy. And so being able to kind of like manipulate yourself in that, and maybe manipulate isn't the right word, but being conscious and notice what energetic state you're in, and then be able to intentionally shift that energetic state.
Yeah, it reminds me of the practice of alchemy, actually. That's something I've been kind of diving into more, like on a just curious level of alchemizing something negative or old or unserving into something generative and supportive and helpful.
Yeah. And so that, I think, connects really well to the next question that we have around what learning have you lived through that others might make healing possible for someone else? I think I wrote that question wrong.
I was like, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. What learning have I lived through that might make healing possible for someone else?
There you go.
There you go. I mean, so something that I feel really passionate about is like knowing that there's always a lesson to whatever that we are moving through. And it might not always be like a sexy, wonderful lesson. Like it might really meet us in our shadow selves. It might meet us in our karmic, agreements and what have you. But I know for a fact that when something feels like really heavy and something traumatic happens to us on any level, it's important to really allow yourself to feel the depth of all of that's coming up and to not bypass it, to just find the silver needle right away. But then, like, at the bottom of all of that, like, emotion and feeling and depth actually lies in the lesson, the learning, the teaching from that thing. I believe that within relationships, within, circumstances with our family, like everything. And so for me, that has made, it's kind of like that the practice and the love of being the student. It's also connected to that of like the student of life and of what happens for our own growth, even if it is painful and hard. And so I've just tried to really embrace knowing that everything that is happening in my life and everyone's lives, like there is a greater reason, a greater learning to be had, and then that also allows us to grow and evolve. So yeah.
Yeah. It's like everything is grist for the mill. Everything that we receive through life is or are the raw materials that we can use to alchemize and transform into something grander, more beautiful, more substantial and profound or meaningful. And that it is so within all of our capacity to make sense of things and make meaning of things in ways that support ourselves and help us access more of our resilience and strength and will to keep going and to access more of our purpose and to ourselves and to others. So I really love that. Through there. Yeah. Thank you.
It's the only reason I think I'm still living. Because if I didn't believe that there was a lesson to be learned or some way to grow within the hardship, I think I would just have become a huge victim to my life, and I was at one point before I had language for any of these concepts, over a decade ago. And I feel like, yeah, being that student, taking on that role and that responsibility that I chose as a human and a spirit to come down here and to live in this way there is a responsibility, and there is there is a lot of beauty in the tragedy. So
Yeah.
I don't think I was born a Pisces for a reason, or wasn't born a Pisces for no reason.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I also think like if there are no lessons, if there is really no path to growth, and it's like, what's the point?
exactly.
And
And even if we have to tell ourselves that there is lessons and growth, to get through the day, I'm fine with that, because my life has become so much more rich and vibrant and empowered by it. So I'm doing what works,
like,
and I have yet to see somebody when they change from victim to empowered, learner like that. I've yet to see that not work on someone. Okay, I think it's your turn. You ready?
all right. Yeah, I'm ready.
So, what is the universe asking you to receive in this moment right now?
Yeah, I gotta say, the first thing that leaped right in was to receive my own bigness.
Mm.
I'm even noticing a little bit of the edginess around that, to say that out loud, but it is what's here and what's present. And I think something coming up for me as I'm speaking about this is it feels like there's so much happening for me this summer as I'm building my business and stepping more into my role as a practitioner, intuitive and somatic practitioner, that I have been receiving a lot of confirmation from the world around me. So through friends and clients and even strangers who will say something really nice and like validating and confirming about the way that I show up. And so in that way, it really does feel like the universe is trying to put up a mirror and to show like, hey, like you can do this and you can be big in this, and that you are in your power when you do this. And I think that it's definitely medicine that I need right now to become the practitioner that I want to be, who just isn't gonna be so doubtful anymore. And
Mm.
I feel like I'm in this place now where I don't think I'm an imposter, because that would mean that I'm playing somebody else, or I'm a fraud, and I just don't think that's the case anymore. I feel like I am completely playing who I am and being who I am. I think the perfectionist part of me
Mm.
will always be like, "Oh, but you could be a little better, or you could know a little bit more, or maybe you could refine something here or refine something there." And it's the particular way that the perfectionist voice wants to keep minimizing you. And so when I think about being in my bigness and receiving my bigness, it isn't so much about, I think it's really about knowing that it's enough, like where I am, with the knowledge that I have, with the wisdom that already exists, that is completely enough to serve and to show up in the space and to claim my role as a practitioner. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I know this topic has been showing up for the both of us these last couple of months, and so I'm grateful that you took the edge to share it right now, and to let us see you in that desire and
Yeah.
in that claiming. And I'm curious for you, if you could just take a moment to maybe connect to that part of you, that part of you that is that bigness, that authentic expression of you. If you could ask, what does it need for you to receive it even more? What comes up, even image or color or feeling or sensation?
Yeah, it's a real sense of groundedness. Like I feel it
Mm.
further down in my body, so in my solar plexus slash sacral area. And there's just such a sense of density there. Like I feel really weighted by it. And I'm just feeling into it here. If there's a message there, I mean, like what comes to me is just being real. Like just
Mm.
to be real is a way to be in that bigness. And that means, yeah, not pretending and letting go of the need to pretend like what am I feeling here? Like letting go of the need to, yeah, just to pretend that I'm anything but myself right now. So similarly, it comes back to like being in the present and that
Mhm.
whatever's here in the present is what's real. And I don't need to pretend that the present is anything else but
Mm.
what I'm sensing and feeling and experiencing in the moment, you know? So I think similar to what you were saying earlier about it's not about bypassing, right? Like I don't need to mask that. No one needs to mask that.
Mhm.
It's just a lot of energy to mask discomfort or nerves or just whatever real thing you're feeling in that moment. And um, so that's what I'm getting around that.
I'm gonna kind of tie the next question in with this theme because I think there's something really rich here. So the next question is like, what is this moment asking you to trust that you haven't trusted before? But I also am kind of wanting that to be coupled with like, what is this level of bigness or presence asking you to trust that you haven't trusted before within yourself?
Huh, interesting. It's asking me to trust my impact.
I got the chills.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's something about at this current state of like not fully trusting the impact that you have.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, and I definitely want to sit with that for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
longer, obviously, also outside of this conversation, but that feels really true. I think that I've always yearned for that, yearned to have a sense of my own impact, to have a sense of contribution and value to the world. And I'm just thinking about the world that I came from, which was, you know, corporate America, working in advertising and working in marketing. And it just never felt like I was doing anything truly meaningful. And
Mm-hmm.
complaint that I always had, or the inner grip that I always had, was like, I don't feel like I'm really contributing to anything really all that special or important. I'm helping these multi-billion-dollar companies sell more shoes or sell more phones or, or sell more t-shirts, you know? And it just never felt like, even though I was good at my job and created interesting work for my clients, I don't really, like, I don't look back and feel like that really was that impactful. And so I think there's
Yeah.
something here about mm, impacting people, impacting the world, impacting my community in a more substantial way, in a more
Mm.
meaningful way that I think is something for me to trust for sure, to keep trusting that like I am making impact or that I'm on the path to making impact in people's lives. And
Yeah.
it's really one of the main reasons why I got into this work to begin with.
the question that I want you to feel and answer is like, how actually are you already making impact? And I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about of like acknowledging those small micro moments where I changed the story or I did something different or whatever. I can just kind of see you at the end of the day writing in your journal, today I made an impact by da da da, like 3 items, even if they were small, by smiling at the guy at the coffee shop after giving me a great order, by whatever it is, those small micro moments, so that you can actually see your impact, not just only in your work, but in your everyday living and being human. And that perhaps that might be a way in which that could be supportive, ongoing.
Yeah, I love
How
that.
does that feel?
Yeah, I love that. And even as you asked the question, the immediate answer that came to me was you just make impact simply by being yourself,
Totally.
simply by existing.
Totally.
That's all you have to do is this.
You really don't have to do much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, you're speaking to something I see on like in our cultural level, but more so I think as a female in a feminine, form, is that I think that there has been a lot of cultural conditioning around like women specifically not doing enough. And I think that can lead us into overdoing, overworrying, overwhelm, etc. And actually, what would it look like for all of us to take a step back and actually just like rest and all that we have already accomplished and contributed, and trust that like we don't have to like overexert ourselves to, going so far over in order to prove anything. And I say this with seeing those parts of myself, so I just, I think it's just really normal and common. It can be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of pressure when your whole mindset is about like the specific outcome,
Yeah.
and achieving that particular outcome. And I think what I'm getting from that internal wisdom or that message is, making impact simply by existing and being in the process. So for me, I think because I have some fire in my chart and Aries, like I don't think that I can ever be someone who just exists and does nothing,
Really.
right?
Fair, under a rock.
Dead all day.
Yeah.
All human lives have inherent and intrinsic value in that way, but for me, it's about being in my process and actually doing the things that my soul calls me to do. And so being in the path of action in that way, and that it's really not about the outcome, but really just following myself and being in the path of action of that. And whatever happens in that path of action is the impact. So it's not, again, I feel like I want to make that distinction that it's not outcome, it's really about movement, right? Like continuing to move and acquire momentum. And similar to what you were saying earlier in the beginning, it's just about like, it's about the discovery of something new and evolving and changing and influencing the world, but also being influenced in return and constantly shape-shifting in that way. Like that's the impact is what I'm getting.
Yeah. It reminds me of a lot of like mythological stories, like the hero's journey or the journey of Inanna, Persephone, that goes down to the underworld and like sheds their identities with their ego and all that stuff. And they go through the descent, right, to learn and to grow and to gain wisdom, then to come back to feed the earth or to feed their community, to feed their children, to feed their ancestors and of the chosen. It feels like what I'm sensing from you and from what I'm about to, it's like it's about knowing that every part of the journey has nuggets of wisdom And you don't want to skip any part of it, because if you come back and you say, oh, this is how you do it, but you don't actually go through the fire and out the other side, you're not really doing anybody else a favor, because that's not necessarily how a lot of the times these types of really wild, expansive transformations work. Like, you have to go through every stage, and most of it is very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I can definitely recognize that.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question.
Mhm.
What learning have you lived through that others might find healing from?
Yeah, the answer that comes to me immediately is really about learning how to stay with discomfort. And this is something that you and I have talked about before. And I continue to reference this quote from Gabor Mate, who says that safety isn't the absence of threat, it's the presence of connection. And it, for me, the way that I interpret that is that safety is available to us. Well, like most times, like I think he's talking about this more in the psychological sense. We can be in physical danger, but I think developmentally, he's talking about safety is present when there's the presence of connection. So even if there's discomfort here, or even if there's fear, or even if there's shame or doubt, I think so many of us have the tendency to want to suppress or push away or resist. But I think there's something about, how do I actually connect with this discomfort? How do I actually connect to this fear or this doubt or this shame? And instead of trying to resist it, bring it in and meet it and be in relationship with it, rather than trying to exile it or, stuff it in a dark corner somewhere. And so there's something about building that skill and acquiring that skill of, okay, if discomfort's here, I can stay here with it. I don't need to abandon it. And I think there's something that is really corrective about that, to be the inner adult that can stay with the inner child. Because I think if you think about your previous childhood experiences, anytime that there's discomfort or shame or fear or doubt, it's usually because there hasn't been an adult to really stay with them in those spaces. And so I think the most important thing that I've really learned this past year is to be that adult now, to stay with the child who is feeling that discomfort or fear and doubt, and to offer safe harbor for that. So I would say that that has been my biggest learning, that if there was a skill that I could bottle up and give to the world, it would be that.
Nice. I love that. It actually reminds me of my previous answer of love is the medicine.
Yeah, exactly. It's very
Yeah.
similar. Totally.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability and your courage and your bigness.
Yeah, this was like a therapy session, honestly, between the both of us.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Title it Therapy with Charley Zhang and Christine Marie. Therapy for us, not you, though.
This truly was. So I actually really appreciate that this was how this conversation turned out.
Yeah. I also love, because today is a new moon in Cancer, and Cancer is like the mother archetype and like the love energy and the water and like, all of that. And I just feel like what a beautiful thing to give to ourselves today, to each other, and to, of course, anybody else out there listening that received any wisdom or love or support from these words. Yeah, we're right there alongside the journey with you. So thanks for being here, and I'm excited to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
I have to stop the recording.